My name is Annette Walters. My son Chase died at the age of 21 from an accidental overdose.
I'm Kim Chadwick. My son Michael Sanders passed away June 28, 2009 from an oxycodone overdose. He was 21 years old.
My name is Tricia Stradley. My son Daniel died of a direct result of drug use. He was 21 years old. Daniel was the life of the party. He was fun. He loved hanging out with his friends more than anything in the world. We camped every single weekend up at Lake Lanier, and we would take our jet ski, and Daniel would get on that jet ski and he would either put me on the back, or he'd get on the back with his dad, or he and his sister would go out. We just loved those family weekends on the lake. He was one of those kind of guys that any movie he watched, he could quote any line perfectly, and we just always got to laugh at everything he ever did. We got a call from the principal of the school saying that Daniel had been caught with rolling papers. We confronted Daniel, and Daniel said, obviously that's no big deal. I'm just hanging out with these kids, nothing's happening. And yet that was the beginning of when Daniel started smoking pot. It was a gradual process. It started out with something that he thought was extremely innocent. Next thing you know, he's stealing from grocery stores. And from grocery stores, he's going downtown and buying drugs. Then he's dealing drugs. And one thing led to another, and it started out with something so simple as smoking a joint to heroin. We tried everything that we could humanly think of to try for him. We originally sent him to a counselor. And then we decided that the best thing we could do is get involved as a family. So the family went to counseling. Neither of those things worked. He went to inpatient treatment 3 times. He was in outpatient treatment 2 times. If you were to ask Daniel over the course of time, why did those things not work for him? I would venture to say, Daniel would say at that time, I don't have that big of a problem. There's nothing that wrong with me. It's amazing how once somebody has used drugs the way he had used drugs, you can't lick this problem on your own. And the downward spiral was absolute immediate. He got out of jail in January. He was dead by June. We were on a family vacation when we got the call that Daniel had died. There are a million details that we don't know. There's a lot of closure that we're never going to have because we don't know details. The 2 things that we did find out were that Daniel was hit by a train, and that his blood alcohol level and the drugs in his system were going to kill him anyway. You don't know. You don't know if you're the one. You always start out using it as something fun, but you never know. It could be that the very thing that you start out fun will be the thing that will ruin your life. He would tell you, get to know yourself well and find out why in the world you're doing this stuff. He would tell you to be honest. If you can't talk to your parents, you find somebody that you can talk to. You need to choose your playground wisely, he would say, because your friends are either going to bring you up or they're going to tear you down.
Well, growing up, Chase was such a loving child. He was almost like the perfect child. He loved people. He had an unbelievable personality. He was so respectful. All of his teachers just, told him how much he was a joy to be in the classroom, and so polite and respectful, and just a joy to be around. At the age of 14 is when I began noticing things were starting to go wrong with Chase. He began smoking marijuana. He was a freshman in high school, and he was playing football, and I noticed his behavior began to change. His personality, his attitude, he started disrespecting. He started disobeying the rules. He began to change into another person. I sent Chase to live with his grandparents in Alabama and to help get him out of the environment, and that helped for a while, and then he started doing drugs again. At the age of 16, He ended up going to juvenile for 2 weeks, and that worked for a while. And then he started doing drugs again. He would progress, and eventually by the time he was 18 years old, he had done cocaine, meth, and become a heroin addict. And he swore he would never do any of that. At the age of 20, he was arrested and spent 8 months in jail. 5 months after he got out of jail, he ended up accidentally overdosing. Chase hated who he became. He didn't like the person he became on drugs. He would cry to me and say, "Mom, I'm so sorry." He didn't mean to hurt anybody. He was very sorry and remorseful, but that's where the drugs led him. Please don't be like Chase. He would say, just don't do it. Don't be tempted. Help your friends. Encourage them not to do it. It's not worth it.
Michael was a really happy baby. He was the first grandchild and the first niece or nephew for my 4 siblings. He was very loved. He was full of joy and smiled and laughed all the time. Probably one of the fondest memories I had of Michael was when he was about 3.5 years old, and we lived in Florida, and he had never seen snow. And it snowed up in North Georgia and North Carolina, and my mother and I drove him from Orlando all the way up so he could see snow. Michael's dad had an alcohol problem, and Michael felt like he never wanted to be like his dad, and he would say that often. And he would never drink alcohol, and he would tell me that he wouldn't drink because he didn't want to be like his dad. But he failed to understand, how much he was like his dad. I knew things were getting bad with Michael when he was arrested for shoplifting cold medication. And he ended up serving 60 some odd days in jail. One of the worst memories was seeing him walk in the courtroom with shackles on his feet, with his grandfather watching. Michael went into treatment immediately after the summer after he graduated from high school. We really were confident he was going to be able to beat it. I think maybe we just didn't know the extent. We put him in different programs 3 more times until we didn't have any more money. We continued to try to find him help through programs that were offered that either he could pay for himself or were funded programs. But we didn't find anything that worked. The last night we spent with him was Saturday night, and the last conversation we had was him being funny and joking with us about what time we were going to go to church the next day. And he went down and watched a movie, and the next morning we woke up to get ready for church, and my husband went down to make sure he was awake, and he found him on our sofa, and he ran up to get me, and I was in the shower getting ready to go to church. And I ran down the stairs with him and yelled for him to help him. He was gone, and it was too late.
The thing that I miss most about Daniel is there's a hole that will never, ever, ever go away. The pain some days is dull, it's some days really sharp. Our holidays will never be the same. There's an empty chair. That's not going to change.
I don't have a son that I can hold anymore. I no longer have a son I can hug anymore. There is forever a hole in our hearts that will never be the same. Chase will forever be missed, and he will forever be loved.
I miss seeing him live up to what his potential was. Honestly, sometimes I get kind of jealous when I see young men, and I think he should be here doing the same things they're able to experience. And it was just unfair.